everybody. Welcome to the Soaring in Sobriety Recovery Podcast, episode 41. How's everyone doing today? I hope you guys are good. I'm your host, Mark Rickert, and I wanted to thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to my show. I'm super excited. Today, we've got a show titled Overcoming. I have a very cool guest on the show. I use that word a lot, cool, but she is ultra cool. Alyssa Rocco, and looking forward to interviewing her, hearing about her struggles, her triumphs, and what she does for a living, and how she helps everyone in the recovery community. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring on Alyssa. Hold on one second. Take that off. Good morning, Alyssa. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me, Mark. I am beyond thrilled and honored to come and talk to you and your audience on this Sunday morning.
Oh, what a beautiful morning, too. It's great.
Yeah.
Where are you at? What state? What country?
I'm in LA.
LA.
California. Yeah. So
Cool.
It's very sunny here, and it's a perfect way to start my Sunday. I'm really excited for this conversation.
That's great. Thank you. We were honored to have you on the show. And are you dealing with a lot of fires and whatnot down there?
Fortunately for me, I haven't been impacted directly, but I know that that's happening. So, I am thinking about all the people that are impacted.
Absolutely.
And, it's scary. So my heart is with those that are undergoing or impacted.
Yes, there's a lot of things to think about in life right now. We've got the coronavirus, COVID going on. I'm sure it's just affecting a lot of people and their mental health. We've got fires, jobless, people that don't have jobs and whatnot. But with all of that, there's a lot to be thankful for and have gratitude for. And I'm sure we're going to talk more about that. So, I mentioned to you earlier, I saw well, first of all, before I get into that, thank you for being my first guest on video. I hope this actually works. Everybody can see behind the scenes. I'm like all tweaking stuff all over the place, but thank you for being so brave to come on the show in a video manner as well. Appreciate that. So, as I usually start the show off, I'm sure you've heard it before. Alyssa, are you ready to get this sober party started or what?
Oh my gosh, bring it on. Let's do it.
Excellent. In Albuquerque, where I host a show from, Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's not new and it's not Mexico. It's New Mexico. A lot of people, they go, "Oh, you're from Mexico?" No, New Mexico. But we've got a fighter here. Her name's Holly Holm. A lot of people have heard of her. She's called the preacher's daughter. And I understand that you have kind of a title too. Are you comfortable in sharing what your title is?
Well, I'm giggling because I recently did a podcast where they named me the Undertaker's daughter.
Yes.
Because my father is a funeral home director. And he called me actually after that podcast was released. And he said, Alyssa, Undertaker is really an old term. You shouldn't use that anymore. It's not hip.
Not cool.
So I learned that. But yes, my father, I was raised, in a funeral home environment because my dad it's been in my family for many generations where we are funeral home directors.
Well, that's pretty cool. I'm sure you've got some stories around that one. Maybe you can slip one in along the way, if appropriate. But what I wanted to start off with is letting everybody kind of get to know you, the person before the career, and all of the great things you've done, because it's quite impressive what you've put together in your life. So take us back to, the Alyssa, the kid, the child, growing up, where you grew up, how was your life, and all that kind of stuff, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So, can I just give one little snippet about who I am now so then I can run
Yeah,
to go backwards?
this is your show.
Okay. I want to ride with you in your flow, Mark. So just to give you my vital stats, I'm 38 years old. I I am a life coach. And during COVID, I came to California. I was actually living in New York. And so right now, my life truly is a miracle of the work that I've done because I am an alcoholic in recovery. And I have not just alcohol, but many addictions. So I want to take you back to the beginning, knowing that there was my life then growing up, and then what happened to me, and then all of what happened culminated to where I am now. And I wouldn't be where I am now with so many miracles if it weren't for the fact that I went through the journey that I did. So, growing up, I lived in Boston, and on the outside, everything looked pretty normal in terms of, outside of the fact that my family ran funeral homes. And so I grew up around dead people, which did actually inspire me wanting to go become a life coach, oddly enough. But the thing that was unique with me was I had a very obsessive mind. I was always worried and I was very fearful and very anxious. I grew up Catholic, and I just remember always praying like obsessively at night, wanting God to like save me, and just could not get away from thinking that I was the worst person in the world. And that's what my mind told me. And so I would look for different ways to quiet my mind because I also felt there was something wrong with me. Like the voice in my head was, "You're bad, Alyssa. There's something wrong with you. You're not okay." And so I felt very uncomfortable connecting with people, sharing that. And what I would do was look for ways to kind of quiet that. And so dancing was very important for me from a very young age. It was when I was dancing, I was in my body and I wasn't listening to that voice in my mind. And so I found that that was one of the ways that I could sort of quiet this insatiable need to be mean to myself. And then the other thing that I found was sugar. From when I was a little girl, I was obsessed with sugar. From the moment I ate sugar, I wanted more. I would lie, cheat, steal. I remember, stealing always my siblings' candy on Halloween and that sort of thing. And it was just one of those things. So, you know, for me, it was sort of like these two threads where I was very physical and active, and I was a gymnast for early on. And that was sort of one of the ways that I could like be in my body, not in my mind. And then also I had sort of these, you know, unhealthy addictions where I would eat sugar. And as I got older, what happened was I stopped exercising as much. And so obviously I started gaining weight. And that wasn't okay for my mind because I really learned from a young age how to maintain an appearance of having everything together. And in my family, that was the role that I took on. I was the oldest. And so I was the fixer. I needed to be the one that had everything okay. And no one could know that behind the scenes, what I was really thinking and feeling was, I'm a loser. No one deserves to be around me. There's something wrong with me. So what I did was I started to control things like my food and my weight. And I would, basically go out and eat whatever I wanted, just like I did when I was active, except now I started to gain weight. So I would make myself grow up. I was bulimic and I was anorexic, and I started to use all of these different tactics and ways to control my food so that I could maintain this appearance. So you can start to see that there was like this big disconnect between my actions and, how I wanted people to see me. And it's because I had all these ways of thinking that I couldn't stop and I couldn't control. And then I acted out in the different ways that I tried to stop my mind from the outside, which obviously didn't work. They just made the problem worse. Want me to
Wow.
keep?
That I mean, I can't imagine the torment that you go through trying to uh, put off one type of a presentation to the world, but in here it's completely different. Interesting. When I was young, after I got out of the Navy, I actually got married to a dancer,
You
and
did?
yeah, she was a professional ballerina for the Oakland Ballet, and she
Wow.
got accepted into the Joffrey at one point, and a wonderful
I
person.
danced.
What's that?
I danced at the Joffrey
Really?
too.
Oh my
Your
gosh. For the listeners and the viewers that don't know about the Joffrey, that's like one of the pinnacles. That's like the New York City Ballet. Just unbelievable. To get into that dance, are they still called troops? A dance troupe? Not really in ballet, right?
Yeah, I did a different. I wasn't part. My dance program that I've done was at the Joffrey, so I know
I
I'm
see.
familiar with the building, but I wasn't part of the
I
Joffrey.
see.
Just different.
Nonetheless, just to even get around all those, great dancers, you have to be good. But for my first wife, who I'm still friends with, um, she also had difficulties for a lot of years with the eating and the self-image and all that stuff. It's interesting in the dance world that happens a lot. So anyway, so uh, did the sugar kind of move into other things?
It did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it did. So when I was a teenager, it started to move into alcohol. And from the moment I had my first drink, I remember that there was this sort of elusive feeling that came over my body and my mind stopped. That was the most important thing. It was that I didn't have that insatiable worry, fear, anxiety. All of a sudden, I had this confidence. And that's what I liked about alcohol from the very beginning. Made me confident. It was my solution to this need to be confident and look a certain way. And so when I first started drinking, it wasn't something I did too much until I got to college. And when I went to college, I started to really feel this discomfort and this isolation because now I'm in a new environment. All my friends are gone. I don't have good tools to make friends because on the like I've really been good at, showing people one thing, but then thinking and feeling another. So I had a lot
Yeah.
of superficial relationships. I felt very alone and isolated. And so I would drink. And when I started drinking, now I'm not eating. So I would get drunk really quick and end up in a blackout. And that's how I drink. I'm a binger. So I would drink and drink and drink until I blacked out. Once I started, I could not stop. Some days I could. Here's the interesting part about thinking. Some days I could stop alcohol drinking. I could have two and stop. But the problem was the minute I had a sip, I was obsessed in my
Mhm.
mind. I was like plotting my next drink.
Yeah.
So if I stopped and I'm hanging out with friends, I'm thinking about my drink. I'm not connecting with you. I'm not present. I'm not
Right.
giving you attention. I'm thinking about how I can get away from you so I can get another drink so I can feel better again and go back to that state of feeling confident and sure of myself because it didn't last. And so that's really how I drank through college. And then after college, I realized that, in my sober moments when I didn't have alcohol in my body, I had this fear. So again, like my mind is really being run by fear and this fear to be like this desire to be accepted and this desire to be like other people. And so I got this job in corporate America and I made a decision I was going to be excellent. Like this was going to be, my new addiction really because it gave my mind something to do and I really was. I learned very quickly how to climb the corporate ladder. Some of the ways were honest ways, like I really learned a lot of different things. I was working in biotech. Some ways were not so honest, like I was dating the boss and I really knew how to manipulate relationships to get what I wanted. So I was good at always maintaining that appearance, never letting people get too close because if people got too close, they would find out something about me. They would find out that behind the scenes, I was still really using my vices like undereating, over exercising, and drinking on the weekend to a binge to kind of reconcile this disconnect between this insatiable appetite to feel like shit in my mind and what I was presenting. And that lie continued on through the years until I got to about 30 years old. I'm working corporate America for 8 years. I'm pretty successful as a corporate executive. I'm about to marry the man that I've been dating. And I realized that I'm seeing everyone get married around me and I don't want to marry him. Like there's really like this, I'm not happy. Like there's this numbness in me. What is this?
Right.
This is what my life is supposed to be? Is this what it's going to be like forever? And that moment and the curiosity of that moment, and I remember just asking everyone around me, like, do you think I should marry him? Do you think I should marry him? It was this need to have everybody else validate what I was like struggling with inside,
What do
but
they
couldn't
tell you? They tell you
myself.
not to marry him?
They're like, they didn't give me an answer. I actually didn't have anybody in my life go, yes, you should marry this man. And it wasn't until I did this 1 hour coaching session fortuitously. And I found, I decided I was, the busybody me was going to go become a fitness instructor. And so, because again, physicality was a way out of this mind that I had known and used from dance. And I met this 1 hour, with special deal with a life coach, and she read a dream I wrote. The process in life coaching is to actually write a dream, where our intentions are, what our values are. And so I wrote that out for the area of love. And in our 1 hour session, she showed me how my mind and my reality was different from that dream. And she said, I don't think you're in love with him, Alyssa. And in that moment, I realized she was right. And it started to get me involved in this coaching process of, okay, what is this? I did a longer workshop where I started to realize that my lies, the things I was hiding and I wouldn't let people in, that was actually blocking me from other people, blocking connection, blocking love.
How do you?
So,
How did you? How did
yeah,
you take that? You called it superficial relationships with that a lot of people have. In fact, I have that as well. I have that wall. It's like, and it's taken me. I'm sick, going on 61 now. It's taken me all these years to realize that I've got this wall, and the wall's been up my whole life, right? And so probably similar for you, like finding that deep connection with somebody and that call, that coaching that you had. How did you? Obviously, you've had some kind of a breakthrough, I'm sure, because you're helping other people in that area. But what was
yeah,
your breakthrough to punch holes in the wall to get to deep
yeah.
relationships?
I learned a very important tool. And the tool is I learned how to make a promise to myself and keep it. So when I discovered that the reason I felt so disconnected was because there were all of these lies I had, all of these ways I wasn't allowing people in, I made a list of those. And I started to make promises to be honest with the people that were impacted. So the first promise I made was to my family about being bulimic, because that was sort of like the one big lie that I was still letting myself get away. When I felt upset, I could eat and go and make it disappear. And I learned that action did not match my intention, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mark, like you talk a lot about this.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was make a promise, and I made it not just to myself, but publicly. I told my whole family, and I said, look, this is what I've been doing, and it's not okay with me anymore. And if I do it again, I'm going to tell you. And I did it one other time. And the experience of telling my whole family that I did that and seeing their faces and watching the impact of it, it changed it for me. I realized I couldn't do it anymore. And that was the first realization that to really make changes in my life, I had to make promises, not just to myself, but to other people. and I learned how to be honest in keeping them. And this is another little bit about alcoholism that I'll mention, but the act of making a promise and keeping it and seeing the experience through somebody else's eyes changed the way I saw the world. Because until that point, most of how I saw the world was through my own filter, my own lens, my own thinking. And my thinking was very sick because until this point, I'm still not sober. So all the ways that I had been talking about myself, all the meanness, all of the anger, all of the upset, all of the, you can't tell her this, you can't say this, Alyssa, you can't X. It wasn't true. It's just that it was true in my mind. And I listened to that voice. I listened to my mind. So I think it's such a powerful moment for people who are addicts or alcoholics or have something that they're powerless over, that the problem is that you're attached to that thought, that way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And until you get sober, what 12 steps teaches is the separation from you, from your mind, and starting to get you think in terms of having a higher power, having something greater than your mind. So does it make sense? Because then I'll get you to what happened to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, some of your darkest days were as a kid or during your journey of recovery and sobriety?
I'll tell you my darkest day. So what happened was I decided that I was going to become a life coach, because up until this point, that was the process that started working. So now I start to get honestly happy in my life. I start to solve the disconnect between what I was, my actions and my intentions. I make promises to myself about ending my right to be bulimic, about my food, not over exercising. I get out of the bad relationship. So now I'm starting to solve the gap between my intention, my values, and what I was doing. And that really changed the way I was thinking as well, because I started to really have some peace around who I was being in the world. I started wanting to tell people about my story and who I was being in the world. And I became a coach and I moved to New York. And I thought my life was going to take off, right? Because now I'm like single. I am in New York. I have money. I'm like,
whoa,
woo!
Yeah, man.
This is it. Like, this is, the end. And so what I discovered, I was a life coach for 3 years. And what I discovered was that as much as I really believed that life coaching was my passion, except that I wasn't good at it because
That's interesting to say.
I wasn't good at it. And here's why, Mark. I was living inconsistently still in this one area. And this was in alcohol. So I'm teaching now this concept of personal integrity and being honest to yourself and making promises in alignment with your dreams. And the one place I hadn't been able to successfully make a promise and keep it was in alcohol, because what I would do was I was lying. But I was so I was so honest about my dishonesty. I would make promises about drinks, like I'm going to have 2 drinks. And then what I would do is I would sneak shots in those 2 drinks, or I would get like the big, red cup and fill it all the way to the top. Like,
or how about at the party, the party before the party, I got to get some drinks before the party. And
exactly.
Then, or I'm only going to have 2. And then at 2 a.m. you had like 20.
Right. Or I would be like, I'll have 2 today. And then at 12 o'clock, 12:01, I'd order the drink at the bar and I'd sit and watch it so that I could wait till 12:01 to have that first sip. That's alcoholism, that obsession.
Yep.
Can you imagine? And now here's the thing. What I teach as a coach is our thoughts create our reality. What you think is what you give your attention to. And then it drives your actions. And then that's what you see in the results that you have in the world. So for me, I was so obsessed with alcohol. Alcohol was the number 1 spot. And I was lying about it. So after about 3 years of being this life coach, things started to unravel because my life became unmanageable. That lie kept getting bigger and bigger. And I couldn't be authentically talking to you and be thinking about alcohol or plotting my next drink. and have you feel the connection to me. So what happened was, the founder of my company, I got some complaints in terms of like my colleagues, clients, and the founder of the company said, there's something off about you, Alyssa, and you need to make a list of your lies. What are the things you're not saying?
Wow, you got called out, man.
I got called out, and in my list was all the ways that I was lying, not just for alcohol, but money. I was like hiding how much money I was spending in New York. I'd been kicked out of my apartment. Like, there were a bunch of things that my life was now unmanageable about that I was not letting anybody see.
But you probably had cool clothes and cool handbags, right? Cool
Of course,
sunglasses.
of course. That's the biggest thing, is like my mind could rationalize everything's okay, Alyssa. You're living your best life. You're 33 years old. You're in New York. You're a life coach. You have an apartment. But behind the scenes, I'm like barely paying rent. I'm starving myself. I'm drinking to feel better. So all of these disconnects, out of alignments. And that was ultimately what caused my life to be unmanageable. And for her to say, Alyssa, you're fired. You have a choice. You can either leave the company, no problem, or you can take on a different role inside of the company. Come live with me, get sober out in Katona, which is in the country, which until that point I'd never lived in the country. I was a city girl with my stiletto heels. And and she said, and get sober and maybe get your job back as a life coach, but really put sobriety first. And Mark, that was my darkest moment, because I remember her saying that. And I remember walking down the street in New York City. And in the moment she said that, I realized that I'd been living a sham. Like, I really was a fraud, because I'd lost my apartment. That's a different story, but I'd lost my apartment. I lost my job effectively within a very short period of time. All of the ways I'd seen myself as being valuable were gone. And so I remember my mind was like, what's even the point? Why do you deserve to be here? You don't deserve it. It was a really dark moment. And there was no one I could tell. Who was I going to tell? Because I had been lying about all these things in the first place. And now I'm fully exposed.
Plus people like you, because of a high bottom, well, so to speak. I don't really like that whole bottom, this is high, this is low, and all that. Bottoms are bottoms. I mean, but let's just say people that kind of look put together, like I had a big house, I had Mercedes, I had everything you could imagine, right? All the stuff I made $500,000 a year or more, and was a financial wreck, similar to you, but I looked good, man. I had it all, right? But the thing is that when you do tell those people, I remember telling people I'm a drug addict and I'm an alcoholic, and they didn't believe me.
Exactly. Nobody believed. Exactly. And that was, for me, that was a real problem, because I did take her up on her offer. She's an angel, right? So no question, miracle that she gave me this offer. I accepted it. I move out to Katona. I'm now effectively like running her household. She's 3 kids. I'm cooking. I'm doing things I never dreamed that I would be doing as a corporate executive.
Hey, you would have been doing it if you would have married that guy.
No, nothing, right? And my mind's like, this dose of humility was like more than what my mind could handle, right? Because I'm like, on one hand, going to these AA meetings thinking, I'm not like these people. Are you kidding me? Do you know who I am? I've been a corporate executive. I'm a life coach. All of these arrogant, self-centered, better than you ways of thinking. And then at the same time, all of the ways I valued myself, I've been stripped of. And so in my community, I'm also a loser. I'm also now an addict. And at that point in my life, I did not understand that being an alcoholic is the greatest miracle, because it gave me everything. It gave me my relationship with my higher power. And what was the real solution to my problem in my mind? but I wasn't there yet because I still didn't accept my powerlessness over this disease. So for a year and a half, I show up at AA meetings. I check all the boxes. I do the steps. I get a sponsor. And guess what, Mark? Nothing changed. And I did. I relapsed. And I relapsed. This is again, like, high bottom, I guess you could say. I drink kombucha, and a lot of people wouldn't say, well, kombucha is a relapse. But for me, what happened was I was plotting in my mind leaving my company again. And I went to Colorado, and off the tap, I knew kombucha had traces of liquor. And in that knowing, I drank it anyway. That was not a sober moment. It was me going, screw all this. I don't need any of these people. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go live my best life as a dancer. I'm going to go travel around the world. So I make that plan, and I effectively try to resign. My miracle founder coach, again, saved my life through God, like through her voice. She said, really, Alyssa, how quick before you give another drink? And I didn't do anything, Mark. I just watched my mind for like 2 days. And my mind went to every single bar I was going to drink around the world as I danced around the world. And I had to confront the truth, which was I am powerless over my mind's obsession with alcohol. And I'm going to keep destroying my life and rebuilding it if I don't deal with this problem. That's the truth about me. I'm an alcoholic. And in that realization, in that truth, in that acceptance, I was able to receive the grace of God and do the program of Alcoholics Anonymous fully from my heart. And it was very quick, just like you, where like you saw miracles pretty quickly in your sobriety. Within the next 6 months, I got because now I've been sort of like clearing up all the other ways of my life, and I got my job back as a coach. I moved, I ended that, stay in Katona beautifully. I replaced myself. I left with integrity. I moved back to New York. I took on coaching full time. I had a full roster within a couple of months, and my life has expanded beyond my wildest dreams in this program now for 2 reasons. One, because I have a relationship with my higher power where I don't use my mind to make decisions. I don't use my mind to tell me what to do. I really have spiritual practices that I put first at the beginning of the day, and that lets me relax and take it easy and rely on my higher power to guide my day. Yeah.
What would be one of those practices in the morning that you
Of course. So there are several. I wake up, I do a meditation. Right now, my meditation is to feel all the love of the world that changes, but that is like my new meditation I've been taking on. And then I get on my knees and pray. And then I exercise. And for me, exercise always includes dance. I need to be in my body, in the movement, and yelling. Like there's like real like energy that gets released from me in movement. And then I have my breakfast, I get ready, I sit down, I do my 3rd step prayer that I wrote out, which is me giving over my life and my thoughts and all of myself to my higher power. And then I read my dream. A dream is something inside of the coaching process I use that gets me connected to where I want to go, what I really care about. And for me, this dream that I've been reading is in the area of love because I'm looking for my partner, and I have been. And so I read that dream, and then I start my day. And then at the end of my day, I close out my day, a lot of times with dance, but most importantly with a meditation and a prayer on my knees and sending my step inventory to my sponsor. And those bookends really let me relax and take it easy as I move through the day because I can trust my mind is connected to my higher power. And then what happened was all of the amazing coaching tools that I had been learning and studying for all of these years, this process to really live my best life, I could use them effectively. I could make promises and keep them and really trust myself and build confidence inside. And so that whole process has really let me radically elevate my life. And that's what I love to talk about with people in recovery, because there is a way to actually design your best life now that you're sober, because you're not attached to your way of thinking, which is sick when you're not sober. So that's what happened to me.
That's quite powerful story, man. I'll tell you. Especially, everybody's got their own journey. You're a very accomplished woman, uh, bachelor's degree in don't tell me in oh crap. Okay, go ahead.
You're so cute,
Wait,
Mark. I'm like not expecting you to
I
know that.
actually know one of them is in organizational psychology. That's the bachelor's, and
Masters.
the master's is in no. I probably have it wrong.
So I have degrees. My undergraduate degree is in communication and in film, and then I got a certificate in technical writing, which effectively got me my first job in biotech as a computer system validation auditor. I became a process improvement specialist, so I was trained in Six Sigma, black belt, process improvement, all of those types of techniques. And then I went back to school to get my master's in organizational psychology. And then I went through the training program with Handel Group to become a life coach.
Hmm.
So I've collected different degrees over the years. But the best degree and the best, for my mind, has been the big book of Alcoholics
Oh yeah,
Anonymous.
that's great.
That has,
I think what I see in a person like you is someone that's disciplined enough that can go through the schooling to not quit. A lot, congratulations, by the way. I was like, I've said it before, king of the quitters. I quit everything. It's like I start, 2-year degree and like 2 semesters short of the associates, I quit. Didn't get it, all that stuff. I just quit. So congratulations on not quitting your schooling, but also your sobriety and your
well,
journey.
thank you. I mean, I will tell you that like the tool for me that has been instrumental in teaching me personal integrity in the coaching process that we use, and it's the Handel Method. I'll just say that has been what has helped me live my best life, is in aligning my thoughts and my actions with my highest values, my dreams. And the way to do that is by making a promise that's in alignment with my values. So for me, I don't rely on my mind to tell me what to do in a day. I create structures. So my structures have consistency with my values. For example, one of my structures is to exercise 5 days a week. That means because I care about being healthy in my body, movement is very important to me. So because I make that promise, I have a promise. I work out 5 times a week. You can hear it, specific and measurable. And then because I can try to get out of that, my mind will go, you don't need to exercise today, Alyssa. You went to bed late. You've been working really hard. You deserve more sleep. You don't need it. You should just sleep in today. Here's the trick, right, Mark? What I also put in place is a design consequence. So if I don't exercise, I don't get my coffee that day.
Oh,
This is
that is
actually
cool.
what I use for meditation. Now, some might say, well, why are you punishing yourself? But I think it's actually a really genius way to use my vice as an incentive, because I love my coffee. I would pick coffee over meditation any day. But if I'm right, you're with me. But if I make that promise that aligns with my goal, my intention, and then use that vice to incentivize myself, it doesn't kill me
I
if
love
I
it.
don't drink coffee that day. And it also teaches me to have a relationship with coffee where I'm not dependent on it. I don't need it. So that structure, and then telling somebody else, right? So accountability to my coach, because I really do report on whether or not I kept my promises or not.
Brilliant. Yep.
That has been so instrumental in me finishing what I started and learning the skill of finishing what I started. Because many people think that it's just, some people are just good at it. And I will tell you, Mark, I was not somebody that was just good at that. I'm an addict. My mind wants to do whatever my mind wants to do. If it wants to eat sugar, it wants to eat sugar. If it wants to drink, like, it goes from one thing to the next to the next. So to be diligent in learning how to keep a promise that aligns with who I really want to be in the world, that's what started to change everything for me.
I think that's so cool. I've never heard that. I've heard a lot of approaches on uh, helping yourself achieve your goals, but absolutely never heard that one. I think I might implement that myself because truth of the matter is, you see the prayer flags behind me and the big I and all that. I mean, I had aspirations, and I was in process of uh, training to climb Denali and then larger peak mountains than that. I had worked my way into that, but hurt my knees, and some people have said, well, maybe I had surgery on my knees, but maybe you can strength train your knees to come back, but
Yeah.
uh, it hurts, as you probably know. But the thing is, it might be possible, and with a little bit of a motivation, more of a motivation kind of a system like that. Can't have your coffee until you at least do some strength training. Might be something good.
I
But
think that's awesome, Mark.
yeah, I was going to ask you about, so a lot of people, we
Mhm.
talked about kind of giving up and quitting. I think that's a common theme amongst alcoholics, any type of addiction person. And what do you say about people who say, I can't do this. It's too hard to get off drugs. It's too hard to get off alcohol. It's too hard to stop eating sugar. And I'm like 400, 500 pounds, or gambling or sex addiction or whatever it is. What do you say about the not quitting and giving them the people, listeners, some inspiration about why they shouldn't quit and how they shouldn't quit?
So I'll say, I'll say why, and this is just my why. We only have one lifetime. Like, we're all ending up in the same place. So to stop yourself from filling on your heart's deepest desire in this lifetime is not living your best life. And that's something that I think being around death has taught me about life. And that was sort of the opposite of what I learned from my dad. He helped people die. And I said, well, what's the point of having a great death if you didn't have a great life? Like, I wanted to go help the problem of like wanting. And so that's the why for me. So there is a why that everybody has in terms of why they want to stop the vice. And the why is a heart's why. It's bigger than the vice. Okay. Even if it's, I want to feel connected. I don't want to be alone. I want to people to love me and see me for who I am. Okay. The opposite of addiction, incidentally, is connection, according to Gabor Mate, who's one of my favorite authors on addiction.
Who
So
is
that's
that
the why.
again?
The opposite of addiction is connection. And that is from Gabor Mate, who is one of my favorite authors on addiction. Uh, so that's the why that I recommend you come up with for yourself, but that's my why. And then how? So I think the best way to manage a vice that you're not proud of, something that's not keeping you happy in your life, is to give yourself a 30-day challenge. And making a 30-day challenge of, I'm going to have 2 drinks on the weekend, or I'm not going to drink this weekend, or I'm going to only go gamble with $100 in my pocket, or I'm going to smoke weed only once on Saturday after I've done my 4 business items, right? If you can keep a promise, that will solve the problem, right? With the consequence. So you use a consequence that's not punitive, but really keeps you on the track, like you're giving up your Netflix. or your television, or you have to massage your partner. Like, consequences could help you in other areas as well, where you have to actually go do something for somebody else that would be annoying for you, like go wash your toilet or go wash something for your wife or something like that, right?
Right.
Giving your kids money, like, and then really explaining to them why the personal integrity piece of it, which is that you're training yourself to have better habits. So if so that's the first step. And then if you can keep that for 30 days, then you give yourself the experience of learning, well, what happened? What did your mind do the minute you made that promise? Because your mind's going to try to get you out of it. The minute that you make the promise, that's our dark side. That's any human being, not just an addict. But we really do have the voices of fear and of bratty, I don't want to, that try to talk us out of things. That was my voice that I showed you earlier in not wanting to exercise. I'm like such a brat about it. I'm like, leave me alone. I just want to go do what I want to do. Right. So there's that level of making and keeping a promise and then seeing if that works. If it doesn't work, for me, it didn't work in the area of alcohol because I'm a real addict. I'm a real alcoholic. I can't keep a promise to myself in that area. And so what for me, what I had to really go through is that process of like, okay, I can't keep a promise to myself. Then this is what I tell my clients to do. Make a promise to go sit in on an AA meeting. Just sit, just go and observe, see if the conversation resonates with you. Because my first meeting was actually not AA, it was a gray sheet meeting, which is food addiction. And I remember the woman that shared everything she talked about related to sugar and cheating and manipulation, all the ways she used to get it, was exactly my story. Mm-hmm. And it opened up this whole world of hearing people talk about my life, and I could relate, I could identify. And so I learned that that's also what I needed. And I think that's the best way to really start to explore what's going to get you to live your best life, or whatever that why is for you, because it's a better way to explore addiction and what it looks like in your life than needing to call yourself an addict. I couldn't call myself an alcoholic, honestly, for a year and a half after beginning the program, because I didn't think I was one. So like, one of the ways that we get out of dealing with ourselves is needing to put ourselves in a box, needing to label ourselves like it is this or it is that. And the problem when you're learning something that is unknown is it doesn't give you an experience where you can actually play and discover and not have it be something bad about you, right? Just like, okay, I want more connection. I'm going to go make a promise where I connect with someone new every single week, because that promise is in alignment with my dream. And if you can't keep the promise, now we're having a different conversation about you exploring addiction or exploring ADD or exploring Al-Anon or exploring whatever it is for you.
It's interesting. I've often said, I talk to my son sometimes, and he's 23, he's my youngest, and he's had some struggles. He's doing great, almost 3 years now in sobriety. But I tell him that success actually for me, at least, this addict, this alcoholic, is about micro commitments that are successfully carried out. And those little wins, they're like breadcrumbs, and over a period of time they turn into a loaf of bread. But it takes time. Just on the reverse side, poor choices are a collection of breadcrumbs that are going to lead to another direction. So it's really important when you're talking about your kind of promises to yourself. I have a shirt that says "Because I said I would," which means if I said I'm going to do it or something. Like last night, I watched a movie with my wife. She asked me to watch Harriet, and I said, yeah, sure, let's watch it. And then I got my comfortable position on my bed, and I'm on the computer, and she goes, you gonna watch that movie? And I said, I'm kind of tired. And then I remembered what I had said to her, so I went down and watched the movie with her. It was just to spend time with her, right? And it's just those little things that I got out of my comfort zone, and because I said I would, I did. And there's a little another she was happy, and I also met my commitment.
So you make a really important point about keeping promises to other people. Why do you think, and I'm going to put you on the spot, Mark, ready?
I'm ready.
Why do you think you kept the promise last night that you made to her?
Well, I mean, obviously, I love my wife unbelievably deeply. That's the deepest relationship I've probably ever had, and in my entire life. She's incredible. So I really wanted to make her happy, and I know it means a lot to her. And I get emotional talking about it. And I've been a selfish person many years of my life, and as I got sober, I really try not to be. I try not to be selfish, and if I catch myself, then I call them. So that's number one, my wife. Number two, maybe of equal importance, is also to myself, because I said I was going to do something, and slipping a little here, and it's kind of like what you said, getting out of the exercising. It's that little getting out of it. It's not good.
Yeah. So I want to just underline this point because I think it's a really important one. Many people have an easier time making a promise and keeping it to somebody else because we care so much about the relationship, right? Like you said it so beautifully. I love my wife. I want her to be happy. So I want to keep a promise to her. And for an addict, what happens is we've broken promises so much to ourselves that we ruin that relationship with ourselves. Because in the moment we say, I'm going to do something and we don't, it takes a little bit of our trust and our self-respect and our love. And so as a sober person, what you're learning how to do is to have that same relationship with yourself that you do with other people. Like you make promises for other people because you want their self-respect. Well, this is what you need to build inside of yourself. And that is a training. That's why it's so important to not go, I'm gonna do X and make some big wild goal for yourself. It's much better to make a small promise, like I'm gonna spend 1 hour a day before I go on social media that is studying for my test or doing work or building my business or doing something specifically for you. That builds back a relationship with yourself where you start to learn to trust yourself again and build confidence and self-respect, which is everything. That
Yes.
relationship with yourself then lets you go do anything. It lets you go. For me, it brought me to California, building an entirely new life in the middle of COVID. It gave me everything I needed to be anywhere at any point and deeply trust myself.
Do you remember early in, well, my first attempt at sobriety should have been even before this, but it was 1993.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to AA, and I got a sponsor. I did all the stuff, I was trying to get my wife off my back, and just checking the boxes, as you said. But sometimes I wouldn't even go to the meeting. There's lots of good stuff going on out there during the meeting. Anyway, I digress. So I'd pick my chip up. I literally could not stay sober for 3 days. I mean, multiple times. When I got 6 months, it was historic. Okay. But I remember reading the "to thine own self be true" thing, and it was just kind of words, similar to the words when people hear the word fear, like you mentioned fear earlier. Those are just two-dimensional flat words at the time. Now, "to thine own self be true" means so much more to me, as I'm sure it does to you, because you're already kind of referencing that, right, about those commitments to yourself.
It's everything.
Yeah. So, well, I wanted to ask you, what would you say? Now I'm going to put you on the spot. What would you say you're not good at?
Talking about my feelings, I'm learning with my new partner. So I actually have found somebody
Yay.
miracle, right? And so I'm just discovering that actually, as good as I am at talking, because I do it professionally, I'm not good at really being connected to how I feel in a moment and actually expressing that. And we realized we got into a fight yesterday and realized that I was getting my feelings hurt, but I wasn't saying that. And he was interpreting it as me needing to be right. So you can imagine I'm sitting here and my feelings are hurt. I got like, I felt like slighted and
Yeah.
disappointed, but I'm not saying that. And then he's thinking I'm trying to be right. And he's responding to that. So we kept having these blow ups until we realized that all I needed was like, you hurt my feelings. But that learning of like how to actually express what I feel, I never learned that growing
Yeah.
up. I was so good at shutting it all down that now, as a 38-year-old woman, I am like in preschool for how do I feel today, Alyssa? Like, I don't know. I have to really practice it. And it's
Yeah.
a skill that I can practice now.
That's me too. I still have anger issues. Not really like they used to be. They used to be really, really bad. As we talked a couple weeks ago, they were different. They were not your normal anger. I didn't hurt people around me that I loved and knew. I wasn't that kind. But if you're a stranger and got my crosshairs way back in the day, it was pretty bad stuff. But today, I get mad and angry, and my adrenaline level goes up when certain things happen, and so I'm having to work on that. How do you, even if it's like an argument with my wife, how do you go about talking calmly and not escalating? Because I'm like, one of those guys that get escalated up, and then I say something that I regret, or
Well,
I'm
yeah, I mean, the tool that I use from coaching is what's in our program Inner.U, which is our coaching process, but it really is the art of honest conversation. And the process I use is balancing grace, which is caring about the other person's perspective, and wisdom, which is honoring my own truth.
I love that.
So I can hold both. And the way that I have the conversation is, okay, here's like, I want to talk about this because I want to learn more about you. I want to be close to you. And then my perception is that when I said this, this happened.
Hmm.
What really happened for you?
Yeah.
And then me and my partner have like created this way where I get to have an A, he has a B, I have a C, he has a D, and we both have to listen really actively when somebody is on the plate with an A, B, or a
Yeah.
C, and we go until it's resolved. And learning how to communicate with a partner is something that is a skill. It takes
Yes.
time. It takes
So
practice.
true, so true. I'm with this isn't a pitch for my business or anything. Just
Yeah.
I want to tie in what we're talking about. Um,
Yeah.
I'm with Keller Williams Realty. I own a real estate company, but we're also all a family business, and we have some non-family team members. We're all brokers with Keller Williams Realty. And when I went to KW, they at every market center or every office you go into, on the wall or somewhere, it's going to be what's called the Keller Williams belief system.
Mm.
If you can Google it. Wonderful set of you'll like it, and so will the listeners. But the first one on the top of the belief system, formulated by Gary Keller, is win-win or no deal. Okay,
Mm.
just think about that in conversation. Okay,
Mm.
not just a negotiation, not just a deal, but just in conversation, win-win or no deal. Okay, then you got, this is really meant a lot. Seek first to understand.
Mm.
And how many times have we gone off the rails and gone like, I didn't even understand half of what you were thinking or feeling. I didn't know that. I'm sorry. So that's what I try to practice as well, as you do, it sounds like, is seeking first to understand the other person's side. Yeah. So what's your sobriety birth date, so everybody can get a handle on your level of uh, recovery
Yeah.
strength?
So I went into the program July. Well, it's my last alcoholic beverage was July 5th, 2015. And then my relapse on the kombucha was June 2nd, 2017.
So
So,
yeah, yeah, and like they say, you never lose anything through the relapse. Hopefully, um, but things do happen. Well, as we round the corner on this, I was going to ask you about your mentors or a mentor. Maybe if you can name one or two mentors, somebody that's very instrumental or important to you in your life that has mentored you through your life.
I have two that popped to mind. One is Lauren Zander, who created the Handel Method, and I get teary-eyed when I talk about her because she saved my life. God moved through her,
Put her in your life.
opportunities.
Wow.
And she was the one that, called me out twice, didn't let me resign, helped me get sober, and I owe so many miracles to her. And then the other person is the person, Donna, who brought me through the big book this last round and helped me have a spiritual experience with the big book through asking questions and answering them. It opened up the way that the big book lives in my life. And how I met her was at a meeting. She shared just, 2-minute share. And I remember hearing in my mind, Alyssa, go work with that woman. It was just like, that was it. And I went up at her after the meeting and I said, I don't know if you have any openings, but I need to work with you. And she had just started this big book study group that I became a part of. And we met every single week. And I went through the big book with her, and she helped me have a different relationship with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous that way. And actually, my sponsor, who I'd been talking to for about 2 years, said, what are you doing? Like, can you take me through the big book the way you're doing it? Because she heard the difference in my sobriety and my relationship to the program. And I really think that God is always talking me through other people. And when I'm paying attention, because I'm sober now, I have that gift, I can really receive all of those messages. So those are the two people.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that. And one last question I wanted to ask you what your favorite hobby was or is. And I have a feeling I know, but maybe not.
If you said dance, then you'd be right, because it really is still, I'm a dancer. And for anybody that is something, like if you're a writer, if you're a creator, if you're an artist, who are you? Dance is medicine. I have to be dancing. I don't understand it. Doesn't make sense to my mind. I go with it because I'm happier dancing.
That's so cool. I love dancers, and I grew up around the dance world with, like I mentioned, the first wife, and then also my daughter. I think you and I talked. She started ballet at age 5, and she did very well, and she loves dance. She still dances all the time. She was a Oakland Raiders cheerleader up until last year. Through the dance, she became a NFL cheerleader, so it's kind of fun. But I still get to see her dance online. She posts her, I don't have one bone in my body that can dance, unless when I used to drink, I was a great dancer.
Right.
And then, so Alyssa, how do people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about coaching or just pick your brain or get to know you a little bit better? And no stalker guys, okay? No stalker guys. Right. This is just legit people that want, right? My sister's a personality online, and she gets stalked all the time. It just drives me nuts. I want to say, hey, keep it to business, man. This isn't about what. So anyway, but how do people get a hold of you?
Thank you for that. Well, you can email me first and foremost, alyssa@handelgroup.com. And then for anybody that is interested in the coaching process that I talked about today, we actually have a coupon for your audience to receive half off the coaching program. And it's an online self-study program. So they can go to Inner.U.coach and use the coupon Soaring in Sobriety for $325 for the
Wow.
program. And that gives you a private coaching session, actually, along with all of the audio and workbook components to move yourself through the process I described today in terms of how to design your best life. And I teach a master class, which is a 6-week class to guide people through this program. It comes with the program. So there's these ongoing classes that will support you. And why I think this is so great is because it gives you the accountability and the support of having a coach. So those are the two ways that people can stay connected. Either email me directly, or if you want to learn more about coaching and what the process is, you can use that coupon code and it's yours forever.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for offering that to the listeners and the viewers. And everybody's cocooned in their house during COVID for the most part. So there's no excuse to not do some self-improvement, invest in yourself. Alyssa has got it going on. Come out of the cocoon after COVID and be a new person. Sober, you got great mindset. You're going to kill it and rock it. Right, Alyssa?
Amen to everything you just said. Yes.
Cool. Well, we wanted to thank you for being on the show. It's been an honor, like I said, and just so interesting. I could go on and on and on. You're a fascinating person. Thank you for coming on the Soaring in Sobriety Recovery podcast.
Thank you so much for the privilege and the honor, Mark. I hope you have a great day.
You too. See you later.